Welcome, everybody, back to the Dave Knows Comics live stream. I'm your host, David Lee, and it's good to be back. Been a while. Unfortunately, last week I had to serve a punishment over on the wrestling channel, so that's why I wasn't around. But coming through today with some big news. I think it's big news. I'm also very surprised how little coverage it's getting. Now, I know it's not 100% official yet, so I'm going to start off by saying it's not confirmed yet. He's merely in negotiations, but that's right. Mr. Sam Raimi, hi to True Sinister. Thank you for being here on the chat, saying hello to the people as we're following in. Mr. Sam Raimi, director of the original Spider-Man film trilogy, Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 with Tobey Maguire. That man, Sam Raimi, is allegedly coming to the MCU to direct. He is in talks to direct an MCU film, a very specific and important MCU film. But before we get more into that, let's, of course, say hi to the chat. Ben Espinoza, how you doing? Ben Espinoza says, hey, Dave, what up? Sorry about the punishment. I am too. And had you on the wrestling channel. I am too. It is unfortunate, but man of my word, I had to fulfill the bet as was the rules. So did that. But we got over it, and thank you for the thumbs up right off the bat. So yes, going back to the lecture at hand, we have Mr. Sam Raimi. Now, Sam Raimi has a great career as a director by many standards, especially of the nerdy variety. He has done some non-nerdy material. A lot of people don't realize that. I believe Quick and the Dead, not really the most nerdy property, but very good movie. But he has also done other films such as the Evil Dead franchise, which is something he's very known for, as well as the Spider-Man series. Now, when it comes to the Spider-Man films, though, this is one part where some people might be wondering if he should be in this role. I don't think he was train spotting, True Sinister. I don't think that was him. But when it comes to the MCU films, where does he fit? Now, let's get this out the way. Let's talk about the movie he's negotiating to be a part of, because it is a big one, and it is an important one, especially tying into Disney Plus and every series that they're doing there, allegedly, going forward. The movie he is in talks to do, Doctor Strange 2. The Multiverse Madness. Yes, that's right. The second Doctor Strange film, the follow-up, which is a long ways away from the original. I think it's weird how long of a gap there is. I mean, granted, we did get to see Doctor Strange a lot in Infinity War and at the end of Endgame, and he also made his cameo in Thor. But when it comes to the director for the follow-up Doctor Strange sequel, their director, Scott Derrickson, I believe that's his name, from the first film, the director of the first Doctor Strange film, was no longer going to direct because of creative differences, to put it mildly. Now, I have given my thoughts on the replacement of that director before in a previous video here on this channel, so I'm not too heartbroken about his departure, but I am very excited for the Sam Raimi entry for the most part. However, again, as awesome as it would be to get Sam Raimi in the MCU, some people are wondering if this is the best idea. Now, let's go to the chat again. True Sinister says, I would rather have him direct a Spider-Man universe film like Venom or something. And yeah, see, that's the big one. That's one of the minor problems that people have with it, or one of the issues people have with it, that they don't necessarily mind Sam Raimi coming into the MCU, but they just wish he was directing something Spider-related. If he could get his hands on Tom Holland Spider-Man, which would be great. As good of they've been directed well so far, but it would be interesting to see what Sam Raimi would do with this new Spider-Man. And the other portion of it is, yes, some people are saying it'd be nice if he got to direct another property in the Spider-Verse, something else like that, but that would be going more on the Sony side of things instead of the Marvel one. So if we're staying specifically with MCU, then we would have to look at specific MCU Spider-related properties. But for me, the biggest one would be the Sinister Six. He was laying the groundwork for that. This is something Sam Raimi has wanted to do since like forever, and why not? If anyone deserves to direct a Sinister Six movie, I do think Sam Raimi is the guy who deserves it. He's been after it. He put all the legwork in. He's the guy who got us to the dance, and I don't think anyone should forget that. However, Birds of Prey out? It's close enough, as far as I know. I haven't seen it yet. But when it comes to Sam Raimi now, there are some other caveats to this. First caveat is Spider-Man 3. Some people have mentioned, or some people believe, that maybe Sam Raimi is not the guy to be directing an MCU movie, considering what happened with Spider Man 3. Perhaps this is not the best route. Now, what are your thoughts on that, guys? Of course, live format, please feel free to chime in. So, when it comes to Sam Raimi and the bad side of Spider-Man 3. Some people have pointed out, now this is more than just saying, hey, don't beat him up. It's easy to, now, the obvious retort to this is, don't beat Sam Raimi up for that one movie, okay? It's one movie. Let's give him a chance to redeem himself. However, do want to point out that what a lot of people are worried about when it comes to using Spider-Man 3 as an example is the reason why that film failed so drastically is because it was a lot of pressure from the studio to incorporate Venom and do a lot of things that he didn't want to do. He wanted to tell a specific story. They didn't want him to. They wanted to tell a different kind of story instead. And what happens when you get mixed messages or you get a director who's not fully invested and in love with the project or the story or the characters or doesn't really get it and understand it the way the fans would appreciate, you get Spider-Man 3. You get a garbled nonsense. You get a bunch of mess. In my opinion, I'm not a big fan of the second Avengers movie, Age of Ultron. I think the same thing. I think it was a lot of studio involvement, and we got a muddled effect where we got a bunch of scenes that made no sense, a bunch of things that were weird, things that I didn't get, stories I didn't want, and that's the problem. And going forward, as we know from the MCU, especially even with this creative difference departure, we've seen it multiple times where directors have left their helm because of involvement with a Marvel studio or Disney or what have you. So the question is, will this affect Sam Raimi's directing? Would we potentially get another problematic issue with Spider-Man 3, with Doctor Strange 2, seeing the fact that we already had one director leave because they clashed with the studio on it? And if Sam Raimi decides to commit, will we have a problem? And also, you could make the same argument for Ron Howard when we took over Solo, a Star Wars story. Let's get back in the chat real quick before we move on. Sorry, it is almost only me. No. I don't think Spider-Man 3 was that bad overall. Yeah, it is mostly just you. Too many villains, a strong retcon. They were doing too much. Yeah. I think Spider-Man 3 was good up until the fight, like with the fight scene between Harry and Spider-Man in the sky. Like when they were fighting over the ring, that was perfect. That was beautiful. I love that fight scene. And then after that, it was immediate downhill for me. Doctor Strange 2 was mentioned in Spider-Man 2. Ooh, that's right. He was. That name's taken. Very good, Harry Flynn. And thank you for being here. And thank you for the thumbs up, guys. Okay, but on top of that, so there is the question about whether or not studio involvement is going to be Sam Raimi's kryptonite. If he stays on board, and they got a lot of studio involvement, which it seems like they are already trying to do for this Doctor Strange sequel, could it derail Sam Raimi? Or is it possible that was just a fluke with Spider-Man 3 and maybe he can work with a studio in a better case scenario? Although, as again, it's been pointed out several times that involvement with the studio and not believing in the project 100% is what caused the disaster of Spider-Man 3. Following this, we can also point out another issue, though, is that even if Sam Raimi's on the top of his game, when we look at the early 2000s films of Spider-Man with Sam Raimi, Spider-Man 2, which I think is still a fantastic film, and the original Spider-Man itself, when we look at these movies, people were talking about Venom and say that, oh, it feels like an early 2000s superhero movie. So is that necessarily a good thing? Is Sam Raimi good for the MCU today? Or was his biggest success for a particular time period where superhero movies were at a certain area? Because before Sam Raimi, I think superhero movies were in a little bit of a more campy stage. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man did bring it to the forefront, and he made them better movies as far as I'm concerned, especially with Spider-Man 2. But is there the chance that the MCU has gone past where Sam Raimi left it, especially now that we're living in a world where we have Black Panther and Joker, and is Sam Raimi capable of stepping up to this game? Now, I'm not trying to say that I doubt he is. I'm not trying to say that I don't think he's capable. But I think these are thoughts we should have, or just things we should be wondering about before we get our hopes too high. Because the last thing I want to do is get super excited for this idea, only to find out that there are certain aspects that I missed. Personally, I do think that this is a good thing. I hope Sam Raimi does sign on to direct. I would like it if it was a Spider-Man property instead, but what you going to do? And I do have faith in him. However, I am trying to keep myself a little bit grounded in reality, one foot in reality, and just wonder if maybe there's a chance it's not going to be as good as I'm hoping there it is. All right, so let's go back in. True Sinister says, I want a Raimi Spider-Man universe cameo in the Doctor Strange film, especially when an emphasis on the multiverse. Yes, that wouldn't be bad either. And let's also talk about that multiverse. Multiverse madness, because Scarlet Witch is rumored to have a heavy role in this, especially with her show WandaVision coming out. So, the rumor is this is going to tie into the MCU's Disney Plus side of things to connect all these dots together with these TV series and have Doctor Strange is going to play a pivotal role. The Doctor Strange film is going to play a pivotal role in seeing where all this multiverse of madness stuff is going. So, this isn't a movie to take lightly. If it is going to be the cornerpin of the entire MCU multiverse, then we need to figure out the best possible way to present it. So there's a lot riding on this, especially with Sam Raimi at the helm. So I hope he's up for it, because while Spider-Man 3 may have disappointed a lot of people, a film of this magnitude may have potential to damage even more, and Sam Raimi better be on guard. Vinny Montana just showed up. What up, Dave? If you don't remember, and Spider-Man 2, they also referenced Doctor Strange. Yes, Harry Flynn brought that up earlier, and yes, he did. Doctor Strange, great name. But it's taken, yes, of course. So, what do you guys think? Definitely interested to know what are your thoughts on the Sam Raimi idea. Is it time for Sam Raimi's redemption to the MCU? Do you want him to do Doctor Strange, or do you want him to do another property, probably the Spider-Man property, I don't know, maybe? And also, on top of all that, should Sam Raimi be the right choice? Should Sam Raimi be the guy to take over Doctor Strange 2? Does he have the chops for it? Is he going to be bogged down by studio involvement, or is this something that he could do without? Let me know, guys, your thoughts. If you're not watching live, let me know down in the comments. Oh, real quick, also, it's not like Sam Raimi has been living under a rock. Days of Futures Past was way more modern feeling than the older Bryan Singer films. That's a good point. A very good point that you bring up, True Sinister. It shows, you're right, it shows that directors from those early 2000s have been able to adapt when given a chance in the modern era. Yes, that's a very good point. Bryan Singer is a good example of that. I like that you brought that up, True Sinister. Okay, so what about the rest of you? Are you interested to see what Raimi can do today? What property do you want him to direct? And is it Doctor Strange 2? I don't think you're fair. Again, let me know down in the comments. Maybe have Tobey Maguire show up. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for being here. Let me know your thoughts. If you're not here live, let me know in the comments section. But for now, I'm gonna get going. It's been great being back. We'll be on the wrestling live stream in a little while, so don't go too far. Keep those notifications on right here. Dave Knows Wrestling, Dave Knows Comics. Keep those subscriptions on and the notifications so you know when I go live on this channel. But also, yes, be ready for that notification with Dave Knows Wrestling, because I'll be going live there as well later on in not too long. So stick around and look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much for being part of this live stream, and as always, Dave